Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. Today is going to be the first really speculative video that I make, and I wanted to do it because of the all the weekly and daily, all this cycle theory that recently has been proven right with the 60-day daily cycle, and I've been tracking um, drawing here on the charts the monthly cycles as well, because that is something that determines the 4-year cycle. And as you can see, I mean, I've started from the 2015. This is the 47 drop from previous cycles, but I'm gonna just use this data, and the monthly cycle suggests it's about 47, 48, something like that, right? To the top, within this 47, 48 cycle, we have the top, and then the drawdown, right, which is more or less a year. We can see how it has been working out so far. So I have also divided in the first kind of impulse, right, and a second kind of move, and it's we can see that pretty much this second move has always been the most explosive. We could say this was the first. This is the first stage of the move, something we had last year, for example, with the impulse into March and then the correction here in summer, right down to August. Then we enter the, let's say, the final phase. That's normally the one that has the very strong moves above a 70 RSI. Remember, this is the monthly chart. And I don't think it is a coincidence that so far these impulses haven't broken this 76 RSI level. I think it is very significant, the same way that it hasn't really broken below this RSI MAD cycle. So it's pretty much bracketed in this sense, in the RSI wise. And if this is the most explosive phase, the last one, which would, if it's a 35-week top, it would take us to November 1st, more or less. And 1 year later, the bear market around November. You can see here the top was in November 21, the bottom pretty much in November 22, top in December, bottom in December. Like pretty much a whole year. It's respecting this 4-year cycle as well perfectly. So that's why I will keep tracking this until it's invalidated. So RSI wise and price wise, it is so far in line with the current phase. We're about to enter the last monthly impulse, right? We will have the daily and the weekly corrections in between, but we should enter. We have just barely crossed the 70 RSI mark. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a small weekly correction here, not a big push yet, but a small weekly correction. We stay above the 70 RSI monthly wise, right? Because we enter in the huge final move. That's why I said that perhaps not having a big move now in the next weekly cycle and a shallower correction would be the very best base we can have for final impulse, right? If we take a look at the weekly, this is the Fibonacci levels that I drew from the cycle bottom to the first big cycle peak, which was in March. And that gave me this Fibonacci we topped in December, and the next levels that I'm monitoring, which is 138 for now. And if we measure the weekly cycles, which are about 28 weeks more or less, we can see that from the bottom to the end of the correction, right, the top of the correction, has been more or less 31, 32 bars this cycle. So if we do the same thing now, we would get to the 10th of November, more or less like 36 weeks here. Sorry, 36, like a little bit more, right? But around 35. It would end in November, so it would be around 35 months. It would align, right? We can say that we haven't even crossed the 70 RSI, the MA. And something that, sorry, the 70 RSI, something that I also want to pay attention to is the kind of percentage moves that we've had this cycle in every weekly cycle. First impulse to the top was around 100%. The second impulse to this top was around 100%. From this bottom to this top, around 95, 90 something, 120 in this case from the week. So the average is around 100%. So what if we make a 100% move? It would be around 150k, which is like an overshoot from this area that I'm monitoring. It could even overshoot a little bit to 1.5, but that would align with the kind of weekly moves we've had so far. And what about retracements? Well, let's take a look. And the first stop on the retracement was a 20% move, which was replicated here later. Here we have a 20% move. The bigger correction here, the 6 month of running, 33% move. And from this one to this one, 30% move. So let's say we get to 150, like a 26, 20, even 30% move would be just a correction back to current over high, pretty much, respecting all we've done so far. Pretty much climbing to the next Fibonacci and retracing to the previous one. This could be the final impulse into, for now, my top target, 1,618. However, these could end up being like short if we take a look at how the monthly is looking, because we haven't entered this euphoria phase that normally happens at this stage, which is the stage that always gives the best returns. It aligns with BTC dominance still being very, very strong, monthly, weekly, even daily. So it would align with BTC dominance rolling over right here after BTC completes its full final phase, and then roll over for orchids to show them their strength as well this cycle. And something that I wanted to take a look here, considering I was checking the monthly, is what if I draw Fibonacci level like from the 15, right, from this bottom to the top in 2017? Could I get something relevant? And I think I have, because we can see the top in 2021 was around 1236, pretty much at the top, which has acted as support here in July, the previous pretty much top, and slightly front run here for now. We didn't get to this level, but what if cycle wise we do something like from this one level, which is the 27 top, to 0.23? What if we repeat this kind of stretch, a Fibonacci stretch, that would take us to 1.5 more or less? So what if the cycle top is 1.5 from this kind of Fibonacci? Okay, this is all speculation, that's the title of the video, but what if this is the final blow of top kind of move, right? So, you know, from my cycle perspective, within this cycle, the Fibonacci measure is the golden ratio, but we could overshoot a little bit and stay between these two Fibonacci and get to 1.5. I don't think it's something very extraordinary. In fact, if we repeat this, if we correct here, a 100% move, more or less, would take us around that 228, in this case 215. What if, like an overshoot from like just a monthly week above the golden ratio, the golden pocket, that would be the top for our cycle. I mean, when we enter euphoria, we see price really skyrockets. So that could be it. If we take a look again at the monthly, considering also the RSI level, the stock RSI level, we are very far from being overheated. Right? Remember, even the correction here in 2023 that gave us 6 months, right? It was about BMA, like pretty much a retest. But look at the stock RSI level where we started this 6 months, from 76 to pretty much 100, where we still stayed for quite some time. But now, pretty much as like bear market level, we climbed that, and we are about this level again in terms of stock RSI. What is Ethereum telling us from the monthly perspective? Stock RSI was pretty much just these, again, bear market levels, but the RSI has bounced from these pretty much bottom RSI levels as well. It's not printing a low, which is interesting, and I think that would be the deviation, the trap we've seen here. But price-wise, we can see where Ethereum is very close to all-time high. The previous cycle, when Ethereum was around this level, stock RSI was even higher, and it was still below this, in this lower range, this bottom range, right? Not even getting close to the all-time high. That is something I posted yesterday, that perhaps we are not bullish enough on altcoins, because back here, let's say we are around this kind of same level. Back here, even if we just measure it from here, it was 4x away from all-time high. Currently, it's about like 75%, something like 70%, something like that. So it's way stronger than many think, and with a very, very reset oscillators, right? We don't want to see a rejection here because that could be a lower low and a lower high. So we are not out of the woods yet in the highest time frame possible. But in hindsight, this could really be a very, very good level to load up. Like here, below 200, like 2000K. Sorry, 2000. So below 2000, 2K would be like a very good area to load up once we enter price discovery, right? In hindsight, could be seen like, okay, that was the old entry. So if we do the same with Ethereum, with the Fibonacci level, do we get anything relevant? And what I see is, again, 1, 2, 3, 6, same as BTC, that was the top for Ethereum. Previous one pretty much retested. You can see it's the same as BTC. I don't think that's a coincidence. The difference is BTC is attacking, it's bouncing from 1, 2, 3, 6, while Ethereum is still not even above, so it's clearly lagging. That's why it hasn't even crossed the MA, while BTC is already climbing. Stock RSI is still, BTC is leading, while Ethereum is still far away, but it's just the same. It's doing the same thing, but just lagging. So what if we do pretty much the same thing and go to 1.5, something like that? Would it be that crazy? Because for now, that could be an idea. So what if this next top for BTC, which is 138, my target, well, around 130K, 34K, what if that is 5K more or less for Ethereum, right? Slightly above the all-time high, which is something I said that could really mess people up, but because when you see this climbing, you can see people perhaps getting overexcited, and that's when Ethereum is back, blah, 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 and we retrace, we overshoot and retrace, like let's say that 20% move, something like that. Yeah, imagine we do something like a 30% move, pretty much like a BTC, or a 40% move, something like that, right? And then we really overshoot into the cycle top. That's why I said this weekly push with just perhaps 1x, 100% move, which would be seen as lackluster for Ethereum, could be this 200-day moving average that I posted in the last video, right? Let's say we cross slightly the all-time high, we load up here, we slightly cross, and we come here, down here to retest the 200 that perhaps, this would be summer, okay? Don't pay attention to the extension, then just using it as a guidance. So we do something like this, we retest the MA, and this would be like retesting, confirming we are back, and then we are ready to push into the final blow of top move. Again, monthly is suggesting there's too many too much room left, right? But we have to cross the 70 RSI, something BTC has already done twice this cycle, rejecting at 76. But Ethereum hasn't even crossed it. It was like an attempt here in March. It wasn't its time yet. That's why BTC dominance is showing it wasn't its time yet. But together with altcoins, it's been climbing a lot, and we can't deny that. So look at the oscillators level, where the price is. It's like being around here, this bracket, right? Imagine this is the current levels, right? This is the all-time high. It's pretty much doing the same thing. I mean, not even above the monthly RSI. It's like toying with these levels, but we are very close to all-time high compared to the previous cycle. That is something that I showed with total 3, right? This is my current Fibonacci measured from this cycle, top to bottom. This is the inverse head and shoulder on the weekly that I say will probably play out. And this is the monthly. Look at the monthly stock RSI. Even in this retest, it was like way higher than it is now. I said we are about stock RSI wise, the momentum. Remember, this stock RSI is way more sensitive. So from January to April was a whole reset, the same for stocks. Complete reset of sentiment right before entering any kind of euphoria. These, sentiments wise, is what makes people believe this cycle is shit. This cycle is difficult. We won't have an old season because right when we were about to enter to cross the 70 RSI, we got rejected. I don't think these 3 taps are just random. I think this is a very manipulation kind of move by market makers. Same way BTC, it looks like it's going to pop, but no. So my people think that this is just a BTC cycle without any kind of euphoria, big pockets making it boring, blah, blah, blah. But we know stocks also have blow tops, very strong moves, small caps also running. So this so far hasn't been any kind of euphoria yet. Cycle-wise, we are about to enter this last phase, as I shown here, with the 35 weekly cycle. And stock RSI suggests that we monthly-wise have plenty of time here. Look at this. This would be November. Monthly-wise, we could really do this, right? And we could really monthly-wise, get to this area, even though the monthly just look like a ugly candle here. Perhaps because that's the weekly correction, right? But we just enter. We have done some candles because of the weekly correction, but we just keep pushing higher. So let's try Fibonacci again. Could we see something relevant here for total 3? We saw for Ethereum, we saw for BTC. How about that? Pretty much overshooting, but getting some clear signs of rejection here at 1236, the same one. The difference with Ethereum is that the total 3 is holding and bouncing from this 1236, something that BTC did here in October. Ethereum, remember, Ethereum is still below, but total 3 is above. It's trying to reclaim it. This is huge. The level that was pretty much resistant here after an overstanding huge push, was exhausted. Tried here, but it couldn't. Again, not crossing the 70 RSI. The next push couldn't hold it, but made a higher low, higher low. This is huge. And look at the sentiment reset. That is huge. So if we do the same and push from this 1 to 0.3, like this kind of 0.0236 kind of move, would take us to 1.5, more or less, 2 trillion. Would that be crazy? I don't think so. From this bottom to this top, it was the same kind of move. We can measure from here, even higher, even bigger. From this to this kind of move, this kind of top, 160, same kind of move. Would that be too much? This correction, 43%. This correction, 44%. We get to 1.5 this cycle. Absolutely, 44%. More or less. Yeah, like previous or current all-time high. So again, this is the monthly, right? So if we have this kind of bear market moves, it goes 72%, sorry. From the, if we get to the top, like a 70% move, something like that, would be pretty much like going below this. And cycle wise, like the whole life of crypto wise, would be another higher low, which is something we've been doing. Again, holding pretty much the previous all-time high as support, it would be pretty much like doing this again. So I think this Fibonacci is really telling us that the last move could be way higher, supported by the level oscillators are and how healthy they look, and with confluence with this this cycle theory. So we might, that's why I say we might see a small push, like a regular weekly cycle push now, and then the real move into the end of this cycle. But remember, so far this the last 15 bars, or so to speak, like the second half of this impulse is really stronger. So that's why we might see a shallower pullbacks until the top. So even if the next weekly cycle tops around mid-July, early August, we have the correction into, let's say, mid-September, something like that. I'm just calculating it just on the way. And then the top into November, more or less, right? That would align perfectly with this cycle, with what oscillators are showing. We are still not in the euphoric phase. We have plenty of room that would align with this final weekly cycle push, slight correction, and final euphoric phase, which is something this cycle hasn't happened yet, which makes sense within this monthly, this cycle theory. We are entering the final stage, right? We started here last cycle. Look at the monthly RSI. We are starting this, and now we are about to cross the 70, which is in this final stage. So I think everything is going well, and my targets could be short for now, but that's something that I'm not going to change until I see further development. And for now, my BTC target is 134, my next one, and I will see how the daily cycle gets there, and then I'll reassess. But higher time frame, I think we, together with BTC dominance so high and total 3 and altcoins really close to all-time high, while our dear friend BTC dominance, look at this. But again, look at how close to all-time high our altcoins are compared to where these huge move from BTC dominance to the top, right to the top here. Let's say it's around here. How far our altcoins were. And even where people were calling was all over, so your altcoins right here, early January, it was still like 67% away. Sentiment is bad now, and we are just a sneeze away from all-time high. About to cross. I mean, the setup is incredible. The sentiments in the data, when we can see the oscillators tell us this is a very healthy market. The development has been huge because we've had corrections at the right time to scare people away, to scare the inexperienced, while not triggering euphoria yet, to let them pile in when the real move, when the last move comes, so they miss all this. I think it's an incredible work by market makers. This is not random. Again, look at the RSI for Tota 3. Look at the RSI for Ethereum is even worse. But BTC, this is like algorithms. Seriously, this is controlled and the perfect execution of a wall of worry cycle. We push, we get worried here with this correction, we get excited, or at least with some hopes, we get corrected for 8 months, hope is shattered again. We don't believe this push because it's too short. Huge sentiment correction. It's been a great effort to make the market push together. The same with stocks, right? We can see experienced stock traders and investors saying that this cycle is going to break, it's going to break, economy this, economy that, cutting this, cutting that. We've climbed a lot since the bottom. SPX is back to 6K with zero euphoria and zero confidence. It's incredible. The execution is incredible, but I think the charts are telling us that the best is yet to come. People don't believe it's going to happen again. I'm not saying it's going to happen the same way, but I believe if some kind of euphoria is going to happen. And as RSI Wise says, this, what we have seen so far, is just an appetizer. That's what I see. I'm not betting on that. I'm not going to wait until I make 100x, right? I'm going to keep adapting, but I can't deny what I'm seeing. And I'm seeing this after tracking the markets for months, because now I see enough data to perhaps to speculate about this. And this is not just pure hoping. I'm not getting to just one particular chart or candle or bit of the market that fits my bias. This is the whole, like a 10-year kind of move, right? And I apply the same Fibonacci to every chart and I get the same results. And the 4-year cycle is working perfectly. Why should I ignore all that, right? So the targets could be speculative, of course, they always are, but now they are higher than I expect. And I will change that, modify that depending on the next weekly cycle. So I hope this video has been useful. And remember, being cautious doesn't mean being negative or lose hope or just not think big, right? I recommend you to think big, always based on data until it's invalidated, right? This market can give a lot of money in a very short time. Remember Pepe back in February 2024, 8x in 5 weeks without the proper all season. So stick to the charts, that's my opinion. And I will try to help you the same way I help myself by analyzing and updating it all frequently. Probably next time I make an update, it will be at in price discovery. So until then, take care, see ya.